Hello everyone and welcome to Monday Night V8 Supercars. We are live once again here from Phillip Island Circuit for what should be an incredibly interesting race. Because tonight we're going to be going for 40 laps with 26.3 track temp, which is going to make things very fast. And it's going to mix up the strategy, which will be interesting when we're looking at a two-stop race here tonight. Qualifying currently underway, and the drivers trying to get to grips with a track that is not giving them the grip they were expecting across the weekend. But Zach, this should be one heck of a night.
Yeah, it will, and we've already seen some very impressive times being pumped in the qualifying. Sam Blacklock, who we saw putting in a fantastic performance on a 28.9 at the moment. Jake Burton slightly behind on 29.0. But we saw yesterday in the Scops racing some really fantastic moves being pulled around this joint, some really good hard racing all the way to the very end. So with 40 laps around this Phillip Island circuit tonight, I don't think that expectations are going to be low, that's for sure.
No, not at all. And it looks like we're going to have some very good battles throughout the field with a few drivers that we don't too often see in this series. The likes of second place Jake Burton, of course, not always in this series, tends to stick with Scops, but is trying his hand out here tonight. Glenn Postlewaite, who showed so much promise in pre-qualifying around here. He knows how to get a lap time hooked up around here. And then we have some returning drivers like Brenton Hobson, who's going to be on a drive for redemption tonight. And very much looking for race wins here tonight, but that's going to be tough from P9 on the grid at the moment. Brady Myers doing some very nice work in the Progression Racing Australia and Commodore as well, but not as well as Wayne Burke, who's now got himself up to P number 2, just 7,000 hundredths of a second off Sam Blacklock. But Blacklock's not going to get that second lap in. He's going to sit with his very first time. So now it's up for the other 26 V8 Supercars to chase that time down.
Yeah, and I've just noticed as well, Bo, speaking of some drivers who we don't see often, some drivers who we do see very often are not here tonight, including Dane Warren, who has been putting in a streak of fantastic performances in the last few rounds. He's not here tonight, and so that's going to throw the win up in the air for any one of these other contenders. Marlon McMullen, another one of our championship contenders, finishing his second lap and only going P number 9. So McMullen, who's currently third in the championship after we take drop rounds into account, he's going to have to work himself up from the 9th position tonight, and it's going to be a lot of work. Definitely not unachievable, but around Phillip Island, you know, it's not hard to make yourself move forward, but it's hard to make yourself move forward a lot unless you play a bit of a strategy card.
Yeah, well, there is strategy open today. Like we mentioned earlier, there is going to be 2 pit stops tonight, and it would not be the first time we've seen in this series. We've seen it a few times. Marlon McMullen always willing to do something a little bit different on the strategy, throw a curveball, do something left field that nobody else is willing to do. So will he be able to do that here tonight and make something happen? We will have to wait and see. But at the moment, we are just going to keep our attention on drivers on their second lap, including Kurt Stenberg. We'll turn our attention actually to Jordan Ross, who's coming through Hayshed at the moment, a little bit closer to the start-finish line. And Ross actually on his third lap at the moment, so he is not getting the best experience out there at the moment. Is really struggling with track temp at the moment, even spun on his outlap, so it's not going particularly well for John Ross. So we will turn our attention to Stenberg, who is on a valid lap at the moment. But will it be an improvement? You would have to hope so. Stenberg had very good pace across the V8 Scops weekend, so position 14 not quite representative of where he would like to be. And of course had a very good battle in pre-qualifying trying to get past Emily Jones, who currently is P number 7. Will Stenberg be able to get himself up the order? P number 12 is an improvement, but not where he would like to be. He'll be starting on the 6th row of the grid alongside McMullen.
Yeah, and we'll look at Thomas Hins now coming through, just picking up now, just coming down into MG, nice and late on the brakes, not using all the road, but using enough, getting a nice clean exit coming through the penultimate corner here. Very nice. Got to really be careful on the throttle as you're putting down the traction there. Not dabbing on the brakes like a lot of drivers do into the final corner, but just clipping the curb on the inside there, running it out nice and wide and running it as straight as he possibly can to that finish line. And he'll come over the line and do a 129.535, which is enough to put him P number 14. And he doesn't have enough time to do another lap, so only getting 1 lap in. And I got to say, Bo, the top of the timesheets right now is so tight. We have first all the way through to 6th are within 0.16 of a second of each other. That is pretty incredible.
It is, and it gets even more impressive when you go all the way down to position 21 to pole position is covered by just 1 second. So it's incredibly close at the moment for these drivers. But then the few drivers towards the back of the field, a little bit more spread out. But if you're in the top 20, you are going to be playing very, very tough to make any positions because everyone is so close on pace. But we will run ourselves through the field, and it's going to be a very first pole position for Sam Blacklock for Trans-Tasman Racing. He'll be kicking it off on the front row alongside Wayne Burke, who got his first ever pole position in V8 Scops. Jake Burden, who came home with a podium on the weekend, will start from P number 3 with Brady Myers for company with Glenn Postlethwaite, making up for his rough weekend at V8 Scops in P number 5. Jordan Ross, Emily Jones, Brett Loxton, Brian Borg, and Brenton Hobson round out the top 10.
We've got Marlon J. McMullen, one of our championship contenders, starting down in P number 11. He's got a lot of work to do tonight. He's joined on row number 5 or 6 rather, by Kurt Stenberg. Cooper Webster and Thomas Hinz will sit on row number 7 with Thomas McMillan joined by Christian Hinton for P number 15 and 16. Michael Taliancic in 17th position with Guy Leach in 18th. Todd Parks will follow them up in 19th position with Craig Jones, rounding out the top 20. And then the final of our grid, Steve Jansen, Bruce Keeley, Darren Lord, Mary Hrushka, Abarafti Putra, David Kinmond, and Troy Maguire. So it's going to be a quick, short run down to turn 1 here. But as we've seen over the weekend, anything can happen. You know, a little bit of contact turn 1 if you're unlucky, and it can all go bad. But hopefully these guys, they've actually been putting on really good lap 1 performances throughout every race the last 2 seasons that we've covered. So not expecting too much drama, but it's high speed, high intensity, and low margin for error.
Absolutely low margin for error when you're heading into turn 1, which is so high speed in these V8 supercars. Every bit of millimeters of road length you can get off the start line, any bit of wheel spin will help as you make the run into turn number 1 as the revs rise to get ourselves underway for 40 laps here at Phillip Island. It's green flag, and it's a beautiful start for Sam Blacklock, but not quite as good as Jake Burden, who has got a great jump from the second row of the grid, and it's going to be a very, very tight field as we make our way now into the high-speed turn number 1, which is so close already. A lot of bumpers getting out, a bit of contact. Brady Myers takes to the grass just a little bit, but all is okay as they make their way into turn number 2 around the southern loop, trying to get their way onto the power now, heading towards the tricky hairpin where we have seen so much chaos in previous races, but so far the first 2 corners have been clean. Great job by the 27 drivers here tonight, and they're going to make their way now into the hard braking zone of the hairpin. Sam Blacklock still leading, Burden attacking the Synergy Sim Racing car of Wayne Burke, but so far all looks good, and 27 cars are still remaining.
Yeah, a couple of cars just got caught up in coming into Honda. A little bit of a slow up there, but Jake Burton's going around the outside through Hayshed around Wayne Burke, and that is a fantastic move. That's going to put him up to position number 2 as they come through Lukey Heights now, and very good traction coming out of Siberia there for Jake Burton, and he slots himself in behind teammate Sam Blacklock. So TTR 1 and 2 at this point. So a very, very strong start for that team, and those guys had 3 cars in the top 10, which is very impressive. So those guys have got that car hooked up for qualifying. Time to see if they can carry that pace through on the race. And judging the way that Jake Burton got past Wayne Burke there, I think the rest of the pack's going to have a bit of trouble hanging up with these guys, as Sam's got a pretty good advantage on lap 1 already.
Speaking of Sam Blacklock, throughout pre-qualifying, he felt like he did have the pace to challenge Jake Burton, but could never quite hook the lap up. He managed it in qualifying here tonight across the 2 qualifying laps you get, but now he has 39 more laps to hold on, and the margin at the moment is 0.6 of a second back to his Trans-Tasman Racing teammate. This is a chance for redemption for Sam Blacklock to get one up on his teammate, who did walk away from the Scops round previously with a podium. But Burden is not going to have it all his own way either. Of course, a nice start there for Burden, but now Wayne Burke is going to get his tyres up to temperature, and we know those Synergy Sim Racing cars are so good around here. So we'll see if they can make themselves up and get some time gains happening. But a bit further down in the pack, we do also have Guy Leach trying to make something work, but Thomas McMillan is going to get that pass done. And it's good to see McMillan with the car untouched and, you know, all clean, because we have seen him get involved in his fair share of scraps previously, but around the outside of Hayshed is very, very risky. And he's going to make that move just about work as he now clears the driver of Guy Leach with his sponsorship on the car, which is very nice to see. And that's a huge dive up the inside there for Christian Hinton. And in the background as well, we also had another driver off. And that's going to be the driver of Aberfati Raditya Putra, who has now dumped a bunch of spots and actually finds himself down just in second last, just ahead of David Kinlan, who has had a very rough start himself. So now things are starting to pick up, tension starting to fly a little bit, and drivers trying to settle into a rhythm whilst others are trying to make moves.
Yeah, Cooper Webster on that lap as well, got overtaken round the outside of turn 1 by Kurt Stenberg. Really nice move there. So we just see Christian Hinton now going down the inside of Guy Leach. So tried once, couldn't make it, tried a second time and made it stick. So a nice job there. But McMillan also, when he got past Guy Leach and Hinton chucked it down the inside of MG, pulled out a massive gap in that little pack. So now McMillan all by himself, but Cooper Webster and Thomas Hinds now having a bit of a go. Thomas Hinds trying to go around the outside of Cooper Webster, but unable to make it work, having to go the long way around. Couldn't get the traction down, but showing some good pace in those cars. The ASM boys are starting to move themselves up through the field, and Kurt Stenberg looks like he's got some good pace as well. He's now tucked up behind Marlon McMullen after getting that passed on Cooper Webster. But yeah, these TTR guys up the front doing a good job. Wayne Burke, though, still holding on, as is Brady Myers and Glenn Postlethwaite. So a little bit of a gap from Postlethwaite back to Jordan Ross, but nothing too substantial at this time. So just getting a little 5-car breakaway at the front here. But, you know, I think these guys are also well practiced from last night. It's going to take a little bit of rattling and a little bit of shaking and a little bit of, you know, tactical positioning of your car to force your hand on your opponent to try and make anything work here.
Yeah, you will. And just interestingly as well, I've just noticed that our top 3 in the championship so far are Marlon McMullen, Thomas Hinds and Kurt Stenberg, and not a single one of them are in the top 10 right now. That shows how many drivers are rocking up from Viet Scops, thinking they've got pace and really making their impact here tonight, really putting it to the regulars in this series. As Stenberg begins to make some ground on McMullen. But another driver that is making ground is Jake Burden, who has now closed that gap up that Sam Blacklock made pretty early on in the race. And now Jake Burden, he's not going to enjoy being the second best TTR car here tonight. He's going to want to go for the win, and we know that Trans-Tasman Racing will not have team orders. They will not let each other through. So Jake Burden is going to have to find one way to get past his teammate.
Yeah, and we saw Jake doing a fantastic job last night in the dying laps of that race against his teammate Jared Filsell, and there was no love lost there. They fought until the very end, and Jake unfortunately losing out due to, well, we're not really 100% sure, possibly fuel, but he did seem to slow down as he was coming across the line, so possibly fuel. So hopefully he gets his calculations tonight and he can cross the line with a little bit of gas left in the car, and hopefully enough to have made himself past Sam Blacklock. But Sam looking good out the front there, and now Wayne Burke is tucked up right on those guys, and the gap to Brady Myers and Glenn Postlethwaite is just starting to eke out a little bit, with Wayne starting to push Jake a little more. And I suspect, yeah, Wayne looks really good through turn number 1 there, going in nice and deep, carrying a lot of speed, and then coming out with a lot of speed. So I think that he'll be probably pushing these TTR guys a little harder than what they want to go. But nonetheless, I think that, yeah, Jake's definitely going to be looking for a little bit of redemption last night. He obviously came first in pre-qualifying and didn't qualify on pole for the race. So started really well, and then a couple of unfortunalities ended him back in P3. So he's looking for redemption, and it looks like he's got the speed to take a win tonight.
Yeah, well, there is a little bit of chaos happening further down the field, and it's Craig Jones who finds himself pointing the wrong direction, and that was actually all done by his own. Very cool conditions here, so when you light the rear tyres up, they're not going to grip quite as easily as they sometimes would where these tyres or this track condition is in the optimal point. So they're finding it a lot tougher to get the traction down, and you saw there out of Honda, Craig Jones just lit the rear tyres up, and there was no way he was going to catch it. So unfortunately, Craig now finds himself down in 25th, so he lost 6 positions from there. But he does have the driver if he's not going to spin it once again. A big slide, still sliding, contact just about with Aberfati, who's once again copping a hit in the opening 5 laps of this race. So Craig Jones not having the best lap of his life, but we'll go back to this battle up the front because these three are so close at the moment. Wayne Burke looking very strong through Southern Loop. You can see there, Burton just not quite hugging the inside quite as nicely as the Synergy Sim Racing cars, but he doesn't get the exit right, so they're going to stay as they are. And you're definitely right in your point there, Zach, that Brady Myers, Glenn Postlethwaite are just beginning to lose touch with those top three. So this might be a bit of a three-horse race, which makes things very interesting when it comes to strategy. Of course, still 35 laps left on the clock. We're only 5 laps down, but strategy will already be at the forefront of a lot of drivers' minds.
Yeah, definitely. And another thing to consider for Myers and Postlethwaite as well is if these guys get into a little bit of a battle, if they decide that they want to have at it and decide what's going to happen about positions 1, 2, and 3 right now, that'll bring those guys back in the race. So probably a little better for the top 3 to just kind of train along, chug away, pull away from these guys a little bit, and then use the pit strategy, as you said, to determine who's going to be first, second, and third. But I don't think that you'll see that happening too much. You got something there, Bo?
I do indeed, and Todd Parks has had quite the nightmare of a lap. He got bumped wide a little bit earlier in the lap, and now perhaps technical issues or something else as he drove the car onto the grass and is now gonna call it a night, unfortunately. So for Todd Parks, you know, he had a very good pace here tonight, qualified 19th, so he was looking to make some good ground and he was moving forward, but unfortunately all he's going to be doing now is making his way home for an early night, unfortunately. So Todd Parks is one of our first retirements here tonight, unfortunately.
Yeah, always a shame, but we've still got 26 V8 Supercars going around at the moment. I'm going to take you now to the battle between Marlon McMullen and who is that? Kurt Stenberg. Just check out what they're doing. Yeah, they've actually, Kurt Stenberg's been catching up to Marlon quite a bit over the last few laps. Obviously, after getting past Cooper Webster earlier, he's been able to plug away. And it looks like as well, the car of Brian Borg is actually up there in the mix. I think, is he, what's Brian Borg doing? No, is he in P10? Okay, so Marlon's trying to get past Brian Borg as well. I didn't even notice that Brian was there, to be honest with you. Good to see you, Brian. So yeah, Brian looking like that he's holding up these guys right now. And I'm sure that Marlon, with his position in the championship, will definitely be looking to get past as soon as he can, as there is already a little bit of a gap starting to form between Brett Loxton and Brian Borg there. Yeah,
absolutely. So Loxton is really a driver on form at the moment. He's, you know, he used to be a driver that was always just outside the top 15 or so, but this season he's really put his foot forward into becoming a regular in the top 10. So Brett Loxton doing a fantastic job of late, and even put in some incredibly competitive times in the V8 Scops pre-qualifying. So here's a driver for teams out there looking for a new driver. You know, maybe he's an option there unless he's very comfortable in his current team, but Loxton definitely catching the eyes of a few drivers at the moment. But we'll go back behind to that battle with Borgie, McMullen, and Stenberg, because McMullen hasn't got the nicest exit ever. I'm not sure Stenberg's going to be able to do anything with it. But these three are very close to each other, and Borgie cannot be a comfortable car right now with those two hot on his tail. Of course, that is first and third in the championship, and well, if you look just behind as well, that's second place in the championship with Thomas Hins, who is doing some nice lap times at the moment as well. And he is catching these guys just a little bit. It was a 1/10 of a second faster than Brian Borg last time around, but when you have 33 laps still on the clock here tonight, 1/10 of a second is all you need to make some ground.
Yeah, that's right. And Kurt Stenberg's looking very racy. He's trying to carry a lot of speed up through Lukey Heights there as they come down to MG, and oh, those guys almost would have made contact there. Very close on the bumper as Brian Borg got very hard on the brakes coming down into MG. And Marlon McMullen now does look like he has a pretty nice run here. He can get a bit of a exit out of the final corner. He might be able to get close enough to at least just poke the nose in and unsettle Brian a little bit, possibly for turn 2. And he is just kind of showing a bit of intention and makes a bit of a move, but Brian's not going to fall for it. He comes back in and takes his line, hits that apex nicely. Marlon's got a little bit of a wider entry into there, and Kurt Stenberg's just running wider in general, looking for a bit of exit speed. And Kurt Stenberg now has pretty good run, but they're all very evenly matched at this point. Brian Borg got some good horses underneath the bonnet of that Ford Falcon there as McMullen comes in very deep. And Kurt Stenberg looking to use that outside line, but to no avail. And McMullen now, he's got a bit of overspeed, but Brian Borg playing a nice defensive card there. Just not giving McMullen any opportunity to come up, but McMullen now very much on the back of Brian Borg. He really wants to get past in the next lap, I think.
He does, but one driver that tried a little bit too hard to get past was Glenn Postlethwaite up the inside of Brady Myers into Honda way too late and took them both off the circuit doing some rallycross, and that's opened the door beautifully for Jordan Ross, who has gone through, taken advantage, and has now run away with that fourth place. So Jordan Ross has now inherited that place. Brady Myers and Postlethwaite, we said they would be able to play strategy and perhaps do something to upset the top three contenders, but that has just thrown all of that out of the contention, as Posy is not going to have an easy time as Emily Jones looks to the inside for turn number 1. This is a high-speed point, not where you want to go side by side, but Posy's going to turn in around the outside on the marbles. No grip out there, keeps it beautifully within track limits. Emily Jones, I'm sorry, but there is no way through there. Posy slams the door shut, holds on to that position number 6 for now, and now he can start to get his head down a little bit and chase down Brady Myers. We know Posy has very good pace. We've seen him close in on Brady Myers once before. So if he can just get rid of Emily Jones just a little bit, of course, having to go defensive right now, that's not helping him. That's allowing Brady to pull away ever so slightly. All he needs is a little bit of a gap. I think Posy will be able to set those colours fly and really chase after Brady Myers.
Yeah, and we'll just go up to the battle for the lead now, because Jake Burton is inching ever closer to Sam Blacklock, and he's starting to look like he's getting a little impatient, and Sam having to just go slightly defensive as they come down into MG. Jake now right on the bumper of Sam Blacklock as they come through the penultimate corner. Very gentle on the accelerator by all three of those drivers, and Wayne Burke dives into the pits. So lap number 10, this is where the strategy begins. So Wayne will be looking to get on some fresh tires, put down some fast times, and well, hopefully for him, the guys in front of him will not come into the pits the next time by, but we'll have to wait and see. But now that gives a little bit more opportunity for Jake to now have a go at Sam, but at the same time, they don't really want to fight, because that's going to open them up to being overtaken by Wayne. So kind of two cards being played there by Wayne, in that he's going to make these guys go quickly, but he's also not really allowing them to overtake each other. So
yeah, absolutely. And that, sorry to cut you off there, Zach, but that was definitely a team decision there for Synergy Sim Racing, because Brenton Hobson dived in as well, and they're both underway. And the big question mark I had when they dived into the pit lane was, this was them going for an undercut, but would they come out in traffic? And the answer is not at all. They have a beautiful amount of clear road. So I think Sam Blacklock and Jake Burton, who continue to scrap away at the lead, Sam actually missing the entry point there, and he's going to come under a lot of pressure now, side by side over Lukey Heights into MG. Such a hard braking zone. It's not going to be a way through for Jake Burton there. But this is really opening the door for Synergy Sim Racing now. They've got clear track. They've got new tyres. The car is filled. I think TTR have to react soon. And Burton will. Sam will not. And I'm not sure that is a good call for Blacklock, because we will see that these tyres will go off quite a lot around this circuit. So for Sam, he's now got 2 laps worth of undercut lost to Wayne Burke, and now 1 to his teammate. Clean air is all well and good, but fresh tyres are all that much better.
Yeah, and we can see there's actually quite a few cars down in the pit lane now. I'm having a bit of difficulty deciphering who it is. We've got Jake Burton, Brady Myers, Glenn Postlethwaite, Jordan Ross, Mullen, Kurt Stenberg, Thomas Hinz. So quite a few people who are up in the top 10 now in the pits and making their strategy calls for the night. And where is Wayne Burke? Wayne Burke, he's going to get Burton, so nicely done by Wayne Burke there. And surely that is going to mean that Sam Blacklock as well is going to succumb to the trump card played by Wayne Burke there. And Wayne has a very substantial lead. I mean, look at that. That's got to be 2 seconds already. And he's got hot tyres. Jake's going to have to warm those up, because first lap in these V8 supercars is not always good. And just looking at Jordan Ross and Brenton Hobson having a bit of a squabble. Jordan got a really poor exit coming out of the southern loop, and Brenton Hobson's going to try go around the outside, breaks nice and late, and that is going to put him up into effectively... well, actually, Brady Myers has gotten past Jordan Ross in all that pit action as well. So I think that's effectively P number 5 now, assuming that Brady's now in 4. And Blacklock is now coming into the pits, along with, I think that's McMillan, Guy Leach, Christian Hinton, and yeah, those are the only guys in the pit lane at the moment. So probably see these guys extend the next stop out a little further, I'd imagine.
You would think so, and they're going to have to, of course. 40-lap race, and if they're going to do 10-lap stints, that's 3 pit stops, which is going to hurt you a lot. But the interesting thing for me comes with Emily Jones, Brett Loxton, Brian Borg, Cooper Webster, and a couple of others who are choosing to take their longer few stints at the start of the race. So they're going to make sure that they've got really new tyres towards the end of the race, and they're going to be making their way all the way through the field, which is going to be fantastic to see. But just to also make note, Blacklock now out of the pits and has indeed lost the ground to not just Wayne Burke, who is miles clear of Jake Burden, but Sam himself is miles behind Jake Burden. So Blacklock really losing a lot in the pit stop phase, and if he left that 1 lap later, he could have been in this battle, including Brady Myers, Brenton Hobson, and Jordan Ross. So Blacklock really playing it quite late, but he does have newer tyres than the 2 in front of him now, and this might be able to help him further on in the race, but that was a lot of time lost for our effective race leader at the start.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's a lot of different strategies you can play here, especially when you have to take 2 pit stops. Like you said, with Emily and Loxton and Borg out the front, I mean, they're probably just cruising, fuel saving, saving the tires, going as long as they can so that they can be fast at the end. These guys have come out of the gates roaring early, and now they're probably going to have to do a little bit of conservation and a little bit of fuel saving. And our leader, Wayne Burke, is being held up by Troy Maguire. Little bit of contact there as they came through the penultimate corner. So let's see if Troy's going to give Wayne a little bit of trouble. I'd imagine he'd just pull over, and there we go. But not ideal for our race leader there, as he was coming through the final section of corners. But all 3 of these guys up the front, I mean, you don't know, Jake and Sam could be pushing right now and Wayne could be cruising, or vice versa. So I think it'd really be interesting to see the second pit stop when those guys decide to come in, how long they choose to run these stints. And then that'll kind of determine who can be fast and aggressive at the end and also not take as much fuel, which will be, you know, one of the keys to getting out of the pits ahead of the other guys. So I think that's going to be the really interesting part of this race, is the second pit stop phase, which we'll probably imagine we'd see around probably around lap 27 to 30 is where I'd be thinking we'd be seeing that.
Yeah, I think around there will be about correct. And Jake Burden actually got past Troy Maguire so much more easier. That's not a word, easier than Wayne Burke did. So making up words up here on VX Online Broadcast. Well done, Bo. Well done, Baku. Well done, Wayne Burke. He is our effective race leader at the moment. And Jake Burden trying to close up, but not able to do it, as the rest of our drivers, well, a few of our drivers, I should say, coming into the pits now. Brett Loxton, Brian Borg, and Craig Jones now make their way in. Emily Cooper and Michael Taliancic still out there going for a 15th lap on these tyres. And rather amazingly, their pace is not dropping off as much as I thought. Around the early stage of this race, Emily was doing low 30s to occasionally a mid 30. She's still roughly doing that time, a little bit closer to a high 30 at this point, but the drop-off actually isn't anywhere near as big as I thought. She'd still be losing time at this point, but it's actually not terrible to be staying out at the moment and having a lighter car and a faster car on newer rubber towards the end of the race. Yeah,
well, I mean, these guys were pretty much doing 30.4s, 30.5s for most of that last stint after the initial wear of the tyre was kind of gone. So yeah, these guys aren't lapping too badly. Comparatively, they are losing time quite dramatically. Sam Blacklock, the fastest car on the circuit right now, he did a 29.6 the last time round, and for comparison, Emily did a 30.6. But she's going to now come into the pits, and Marlon McMullen has also just let Thomas Hinz through for position there. So we'll get a replay of that for you. Marlon's struggling a little bit right now, back there in P number 14. And I'll just have a look back at that. Yeah, he just kind of got out of the throttle pretty early there, it seems, or McMillan just quite good under, Hinz, pardon me, quite good under brakes. But yeah, Marlon McMullen leaving the door very open. But Emily Jones is now in the pit lane, and we'll see where she ends up in all this. P7 she was before she came into the pit lane, and it looks like she might come out a little lower than that. And she's going to be caught up in this huge train of cars as well. She might even fall to the back of this train and is just going to come in behind Brett Loxton. Now, she was actually, I think she was behind Loxton before the pits, or was she? Hard to recall, but she definitely was ahead of McMullen and Hinz, so she's lost out quite dramatically there. But as we've said, she ran 15 laps on that stint, so that really opens her up to play a little more aggressive card at the end, and also means she may not have to take as much fuel, which means she could, in theory, jump a few of these cars just staying in the pits.
Well, this is the tough thing with these sort of strategies, though, is on paper, having your fast runs at the end of the stint, it sounds cool, at the final few laps, you'll be charging through the field against people on old tires. But in this middle phase of the race, Emily Jones currently stuck with a huge gaggle of cars in front of her. Of course, she's got Loxton, Janssen, McMullen, Hinz, Stenberg, who's actually diving up the inside of Troy Maguire as we speak. Actually, poor Maguire, I should say. Stenny scared him off the track, and Maguire's going to let the whole field go through. So Maguire, who is still yet to pit, currently working his 16th lap on that set of tyres, and they're definitely crying mercy, as are Cooper Websters and Michael Taliantich, who now finally make their way onto the pit lane. So Wayne Burke was our effective race leader. Now he is your race leader, but the issue for him is, last time around, a 30.1, the two Trans-Tasman racing cars behind were a 29.8.
Yeah, they're going very quickly right now. Maybe Wayne he was the first to jump, so he's possibly in a slight conservation mode right now, just to try and extend this stint for as long as he can, and maybe just preserve some of that tyre life in the event that those guys catch up to him. Emily Jones has caught up to the back of Steve Janssen right now, and she's looking very racy, going to chuck it down the inside at Honda. Nice and late on the brakes, and job done for Emily there. So she's doing well on fresh tyres, got them up to temperature on that one lap, and is now putting her best foot forward. But yeah, it is going to be difficult for her to get through. But yeah, that gap up at the front does look to be coming down. It's down to about a second now for Burton, and when they came out of the pits, it was significantly greater than that. So, but Blacklock still has another 2.5 seconds to catch up to his teammate. That's pretty dramatic. If Jake can stay in that draft behind Wayne, he's kind of got himself sorted, but Sam's going to have a lot of work to do here.
Yeah, Sam's got a lot of work to do indeed. The only, trump card he does have up his sleeve right now is, out of this top 3, well, actually, out of the top 10 entirely, he does have the newest tyres. So that is his little trump card. That is the advantage he does have here tonight. But the fact is, that is a very large gap to his teammate, Jake Burton. And to make that up is going to be a huge challenge for him. But the the driver in front that is making the ground is Jake Burton, who's once again taking 0.2 a lap out of Wayne Burke's lead. And if Burke's in conservation mode, well, he was, as he locks the front right tyre into Honda. Tyres just screaming. The poor Dunlop's having to work very hard around a very high load circuit, such as Phillip Island. But Jake Burton is just making so much ground right now, and you have to wonder, as McMillan is running into a little bit of grief, perhaps, as he's right on the back of the driver of, that's going to be Brian Borg. So they're in a big scrap right now. Guy Leach in this scrap as well, just behind. So these guys are playing for keeps over 14th place right now. McMillan in 15th, trying to get that position, and he's not going to get it by going sideways. Out of Siberia, loses all the ground. And this is not a corner you want to lose the ground, because look at the run Guy Leach has. and potentially he might be able to set up a move into MG. You can see there, slightly wider on the entry, trying to build speed through the corner, and he'll go out high over the crest here and try and dive to the inside. The gap is almost left by McMillan, but Leach thinks better of it. So these guys are playing for keeps over 14th right now.
Yeah, well, you know, it's hard racing out there and everyone's very quick, so you got to get positions where you can, and McMillan obviously thinks that he can find a way past Brian Borg, but yeah, with the amount of traction that he had coming out of Siberia there, he's going to have to be a little less aggressive, I think, to make himself back up there. And just having a look now at Emily Jones, she's right on the back of Brett Loxton. They're going to have a bit of a battle, I think. Emily very tight on the back of Loxton coming through the southern loop, getting a good amount of traction out of the final corner there, but Loxton does have a draft from McMullen, so he may be able to keep it there. Emily showing her intent to go down the inside, but not able to make a move down the inside that time. Just a little bit too late on the brakes for Loxton, allowing him to retain that position. And Loxton looks like he's got some really good pace right now. These guys are doing low 30s, which is comparable. In fact, they're pretty much running the pace of the leaders with the exception of Hins and McMullen. So Loxton and Emily doing some really fast laps right now, and they're probably going to be looking to get past these guys fairly swiftly, I would imagine.
Yeah, absolutely. And you have to remember that, of course, that there is a difference of 3 laps in tyre life around this, well, at the moment with this group of cars. But it is working very nicely as well, because Emily Jones last time around was the fastest driver on circuit. So she is throwing the Trans-Tasman racing car around right now with some really nice pace, 0.3 of a second quicker than our race leader at the moment. But 0.3 is going to have to be a little bit more if she's going to make some overtakes. And Brett Loxton right underneath the rear wing of Marlon McMullen is going to dive out. He's going to think about the inside, but too far back. So he just brakes a little bit early, but that's going to compromise him through T1 now into Southern Loop. And he's going to come under a little bit of pressure from Emily Jones, but can't do anything with it. But this is the issue for Brett Loxton, is he is on newer tyres than McMullen in front. So he needs to make a move, but Emily Jones is on newer tyres than him. So he really is the cat's bird seat right now to really make some moves, and he knows that, so he's going to dive to the inside of McMullen now. McMullen's not going to fight it because Loxton going to lock the rear tyres up. Deja vu. How did he hold on to that? Somehow, also some contact. Emily Jones and McMullen making contact, and that was extremely forceful from Emily Jones. There was not quite enough room there. McMullen putting a big squeeze on her, but Emily Jones knows she has newer tyres, she knows she has pace, and she will not be stopped.
Yeah, that was very interesting. I might actually just might get a replay of that, because that was a pretty interesting turn of events there. So yeah, Brett Loxton came in very, very deep and got up nice side by side, and Emily just thought that she was going to come through as well, just kind of tapped McMullen on the inside corner there, and then McMullen not too pleased about that, trying to run Emily as close to the inside line as he possibly could, and they rubbed doors all the way down to Siberia, and Emily came out on top, and you can see that they've got a nice gap there now. But we will return to the front of the race with Wayne Burke and Jake Burton. Jake now right on the heels of Wayne Burke, and within 0.3 of a second, he's been closing that gap down lap after lap, and now he's finally in a position where looks like he might be able to do something with even just the smallest mistake from Wayne Burke.
Well, you say he's been closing lap after lap. He has been, that is true. But on that last lap, his gain on Wayne Burke in front was 1,000th of a second. So it's not a lot, but he is closing, and he does have the outright better pace. That was just one example. Other laps, he's been 2 to 0.3 of a second faster. So the pace is certainly on Jake Burton's side, but this is a very fast track, and unless you are miles quicker than the car in front, it can occasionally be quite difficult to get a move done unless you can force the driver in front of you into a mistake. And we do know Wayne Burke is not a driver that makes mistakes. He is very cool-headed at the best of times, and when it comes to a battle, he's not afraid to give it his all and put it all on the line. So for Jake Burton, it's risk versus reward. How much do you want this race lead right now? Or are you willing to just sit behind, save fuel, and make your attack in the final stint when the points are finally awarded?
Yeah, I think few people look like they're lined up to do just that. And looking at the way that Emily and Brett Loxton are progressing at the moment, it doesn't seem like a bad move. Those guys have got some pretty good pace compared to the cars around them. I think they've been held up the last couple of laps due to a bit of a bit of battling. But I think that those guys have got some good car speed, and with Kurt Stenberg at the head of this train, only 2 cars ahead of them. I think that they've actually made up a lot more ground than I initially thought that they would. So I think that definitely keep an eye on those two, because I think towards the end of this race, they could even be looking at fighting up in maybe even around the top 5 if they can really keep their pace going.
Yeah, well, that is something that could be a possibility, but we'll have to wait and see because, of course, going that longer first stint is always going to hurt you later on in the race. So you'll have to wait and see how traffic works for them, how the race progresses. Because, of course, they will get a brief moment when these drivers who are currently working their 13th lap on the stint, as Wayne Burke is, they are going to have to pit much sooner than the likes of those that have stopped a lot longer in the first stint. So they will get clear track briefly, but it's what they're able to do with it. So for those drivers right now, it may even be better just for them to save tyres right now as Jake Burton continues to hound the rear wing of Wayne Burke, and that is so close. So they turn into turn number 1, almost contact, millimeter stuff there. Jake Burton harassing the back of Wayne Burke, and he goes a little bit wide here, and he's potentially setting up for a nice run out of Southern Loop here, and potentially going to try something, but Wayne Burke so good on the throttle, out of that corner, and he's going to have a very nice run through Stoner Curve. But how brave is Jake Burton feeling? Not brave enough is the answer.
Yeah, well, I actually saw Jake Burton racing in the Toyota 86 series down at Phillip Island a couple of weekends ago, and that was one of his favorite moves. He progressed very well. I think he started 20th in the third race and made himself up to, I think, 12th or 13th. So, but a lot of those overtaking moves were made at Honda. So he's got some good experience in knowing when it's going to work and when it's not going to work. I think that time he just knew that he was probably slightly too far behind. And he's also got Sam Blacklock to worry about. I mean, Sam's not there right now, but if these guys got into a little bit of a fight, he has actually been closing up on the leader, Sam Blacklock, throughout this stint. He has made up a little bit of time. So if he can continue that pace and these guys get into a little bit of a battle, that will make Jake and Wayne a lot more susceptible to finishing on the bottom step of the podium, which I'm sure neither of them want. But they've been showing some fantastic pace and showing some really good, clean moves, and their ability to construct overtakes been really good so far. But Wayne's been doing a fantastic defensive drive up the front here. I think he's going to eventually just come to Jake Burton, but we'll just cut to Michael Taliancic now. He's going around the outside with Bruce Keeley there. Bruce Keeley has a little bit of damage on that car, and Craig Jones is going to follow Michael Taliancic, give him a bit of a bump draft as they're coming down the main straight into turn number 1. Who's going to blink last? It's going to have to be Michael Taliancic, because otherwise we're going to have an accident. Those guys come through turn 1 unscathed and all managed to pull it up in time for turn number 2. So very nice there. And now we're going to cut to Steve Jansen, who's doing his second stop. So lap number 23, that's a long way to go on a set of tires and a tank of fuel, but we did see drivers like Troy Maguire. I think he ran 16 to 17 laps on his last stint. So Steve just having to do a little bit of conservation for the rest of this race, but all of his stops are out of the way. So he will just see those position numbers ticking up and up and up from here.
Well, he's going to be doing 16 laps to the end of the race, and 16 could be a crucial number in this race because Wayne Burke is now starting his 16th lap on this race, but this is going to be a split strategy. We saw in the first stint, Wayne Burke and Brenton Hobson pitted together. They're not going to do that now. It's going to be the other Synergy Sim Racing car joining Brenton Hobson into the pits. It's Glenn Postlethwaite, and more interestingly here, Zach, this is an odd one I didn't expect to see. Emily Jones also finding her way in the pit lane. I thought she would have gone a lot longer on our tyres, but now we've almost got a pass for the leaders. Wayne Burke is going to have to give up the inside into Honda corner. Jake Burton up the inside, but Burke's not going to give it up yet. He's going to have the inside into Siberia. Can he hold it? Of course he can. He's got the inside, but Burton tries to hang it on around the outside. Can't do anything with it. Tries to set up for a good exit. A bit of a wiggle on the exit there for Wayne Burke. So momentum is on Jake Burton's side as they go through the ultra high speed Hayshed corner. Now heading towards Lukey Heights. And this is the height of overtaking opportunities here at Phillip Island as he looks a little bit around the outside, but cannot do anything with it right now. Wayne Burke taking a very defensive line into MG. He knows that there is a lot of speed in that Trans-Tasman Racing Momo car behind him, and he knows he's going to have to do something to react. And I think what could be a good decision right now is that pit in, but I did not expect him to be followed. Wayne Burke, who's on the grass, braking for the pit entry board, ultimate commitment. That was incredible from Wayne Burke. Has to be careful he wasn't speeding, but somehow, some way holds it. And now, who is the better pit crew? Is it Synergy Sim Racing? Is it the Momo Trans-Tasman Racing crews as they get to work? Stop on their marks any second now. There we go. And that was a lot more aggressive on the pit box entry for Wayne Burke. So that's going to be a few tenths in the favor of the Trans-Tasman Racing crew. Brady Myers also in the pit. So we've also got Jordan Ross. It is all kicking off now. This is where 40 laps here at Phillip Island are all going to come down to. Wayne Burke still waiting. He has in his mirror Jake Burton, and Jake Burton is not in his mirror anymore because he's out of the pits. He's away, and so is Sam Blacklock. He's going to jump him as well. It's going to be a Trans-Tasman Racing effective 1-2 at the moment, and Wayne Burke has it all to do.
Yeah, that was really interesting. Emily Jones had a fantastic pit stop. She actually came out just behind Glenn Postlethwaite, SSR driver, so maybe SSR not quite as efficient in the pits as the TTR team. So those guys doing a very good job. Jake Burton has a nice cushion back to a teammate now as well. So that's very, very healthy. And he's been showing very good pace all throughout this race. He's been pretty much sitting in second the whole time and now has a chance to extend a bit of a lead and take this race home. But Sam Blacklock's now coming under pressure from Wayne Burke. Wayne wants to get this pass done quick, and he wants to get a move back up towards the front of this race. He thinks that he has the speed to win, and I think Sam Blacklock's going to be a very tough customer to get past. He's been very tough to get past, and considering the fact he's got a teammate ahead of him as well, it's all the more reason to defend as much as you can. And these guys don't have to pit again, as we've said, so they, you know, it's all or nothing now. Whatever they've crossed the line in the next 14 laps, that's the way it's going to finish, and they don't have to do anything between now and then except race hard to make that happen.
The issue for Sam Blacklock is he's got really wide turnings at the moment, because into Siberia, he left the door half ajar, and Wayne Burke thought about a look. Into that final corner, he was taking such a wider line than Wayne Burke as well. So I think Sam Blacklock is struggling with the balance of this car. I don't think he's getting the front end as well as he would like. And I think that's going to be a real crucial factor for Wayne Burke in getting past, because we know in the high-speed stuff how good those Synergy Sim Racing cars can be on turn-in. So Sam Blacklock, that's going to be the thing he has to work on. And not just that, there were times in the second stint where I was going to comment on Sam Blacklock having a very quick lap time and closing in on Jake Burton. But on the next lap, he would make an error and not quite do it. And you can see they're not quite making the apex through Honda as well. So for Sam Blacklock, just has to get his head down, really hit his marks, and try and eke some more performance, because in front of him, there is a small gap of just about a second and a half to Jake Burton, his teammate. There is an opportunity for Sam Blacklock to get the race win here today, but if he doesn't hit his marks, if he cannot get the most out of this number 17 Trans-Tasman Racing Commodore, then there is Wayne Burke right behind him to take advantage. This is all on Sam Blacklock if he wants this race win, or if he can fall down to just third on the podium.
Yeah, well, he's actually worked himself out a bit of a gap on Wayne, despite running a little wide at a couple of those apexes there. And, you know, Phillip Island is one of those circuits. It's not like where we were at Mid-Ohio last week, where there's only one fast line. There's actually a few fast lines at a couple of the corners at this Phillip Island racing circuit. So, you know, maybe he's compromising a little bit of that entry speed for a little bit of mid-corner and exit speed. So, as you can see right now, he's already gotten the gap out to Wayne Burke to about, I mean, it's only half a second, but Wayne Burke was right about up on his bumper earlier, and Wayne got very, very sideways as he came out of the southern loop there, so advantage again, Blacklock. But yeah, I mean, consistency is the key to any race, and Jake Burton is doing a fantastic job out there, and he's been putting on a fantastic performance all throughout the V8 Scops weekend. So if Blacklock really wants to make this happen, he's going to have to be consistent and keep up with the consistency of his teammate, but also be faster. And it's a big ask, but if you really dig deep and he can get away from Wayne and not cop too much pressure, he may be able to do it.
Yeah, I think so indeed, but at the moment it is Jake Burton who does have the effective race lead under control, but he is 2 seconds behind your current race leader, who is Michael Taliancic, working the 13th lap of his tyre stint right now. And with 12 laps to go, would not be surprised to see Taliancic dive into the pits right now, and he is going to go once more, and this could begin to prove troublesome for Jake Burton. He's currently catching by about 1.5 seconds a lap. If Burton really digs deep on this lap, he might unfortunately be on the back of Taliancic at the end of this lap, which would be disaster for him. But there are still more battles happening on further down in the field, including Brian Borg, who's under quite a lot of pressure from Cooper Webster right now. And that's very, very close for those two. But also just behind, there's Guy Leach, who's slowly trying to make some ground on Thomas McMillan, who's a little bit further down the order than we would have expected. So it's still very much on all throughout this pack, Zach.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, Brian Borg's been doing a good job all day. I think he's down a couple of positions at the moment, but he's been putting on a good defensive performance. Unfortunately, it has been mostly defensive, but definitely not letting too many cars through. And Cooper Webster, after having a couple of, I mean, he got overtaken quite a few times at the early portion of this race. So now it's his time to go on the attack. And he's got some nice speed coming into Honda here. He's going to throw it down the inside. He's there, he pulls it up just, and they go too wide through there, and Webster has some nice traction coming out of Honda there. So job done, and just, oh, very slidey on the entry to Siberia, but manages to hold it. And Brian Borg got, I mean, if he hadn't have gotten that tiny little slide there, he may have actually been able to get up alongside, but he unfortunately just gave it a little too much gas and kicked the tail out, and that killed his run. So Cooper Webster doing a nice job to put that move on Brian Borg, and Brian still trying to, you know, get in the mirrors, try and force a mistake, just running wide through Lukey Heights and having a bit of a look down the inside at MG, but that's really compromised him for the penultimate corner here. So Cooper Webster will look forward. He's got Marlon McMullen ahead of him. And Bo, Marlon McMullen's sitting in P number 13 right now. That's way lower than I was expecting to see him.
I've actually just read a comment in the YouTube chat from Jared Phillip, of course, current V8 Scops Championship leader, and he makes a very good point. I'm not sure I've ever seen Marlon McMullen this so far down in a soft race legitimately. He's not been spun today, he's not had any major crashes, a little bit of damage on the front left, but we have seen him get very feisty in battles so far this race. But on general pace, this is your championship leader. This is the driver that for the past 2 seasons has been fighting for the championship. This is a driver that we thought might be able to finally take a crown in the official series in this season of iRacing at the moment. But right now, he's behind both his rivals in the championships. Kurt Stenberg is in front of him, and so is Thomas Hins. So for McMullen, this is an awful round for him in retrospect to his other races. So this will look to be one of his drop rounds, but he can't afford too many of them, especially when, if you include 4 drop rounds, this championship this year is so incredibly tight.
Yeah, I believe the correct analysis is that it's 80 points covering the top 10 drivers, which is extremely close, considering that, you know, first place in this championship typically puts out about 290 to 300 points for a win. So, or 213 even, closer to the lower 200s. So there's really not much in that championship at all between the top 10, and the top 4 are covered by something like 30 points. So it's very, very tight at the top there. And luckily, Marlon is only, you know, he's got his rivals directly ahead of him. So it's not worst case scenario. They're not sitting up in P1 and 2 or even P4.
Around the outside, thinking about it, under brakes in a Honda, Wayne Burke is attacking Sam Blacklock with everything he's got. 2 laps ago into MG. Wayne Burke tried around the outside there, but Sam Blacklock did not give it to him. Once again into Honda, Wayne Burke around the outside, trying to get a move done, but Sam Blacklock is not leaving any doors open yet. He is keeping his line so far. He's doing exactly what we said he had to do. We said that he had to keep pace with Jake Burton, and he's doing that to within half a tenth at the moment. We said that he has to cover his lines from Wayne Burke, and so far, with 9 laps still on the clock, he is doing that, but Wayne Burke is really starting to apply the blowtorch to the back of the Trans-Tasman Racing Commodore, and Blacklock now is going to have to stop thinking about the race win. Unfortunately, the pace isn't there, but it is for Jake Burton, who continues to hold a 1.6 second lead over this race. But you can see there, Blacklock not willing to give a draft to Wayne Burke. He is doing whatever he can to shake his tail right now.
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, sometimes that's the good thing to do, and other times it's not the best thing to do. I mean, he's coming over pretty aggressively there, which could be losing time. But Burke, yeah, he's running very, very hard to try and catch up to Blacklock here. I think he really does have the pace to get past, but you know, it's difficult. You got to make sure that you get the traction zone right at the right time and be close enough on the entry to the corner. And he just isn't managing to put all of the components of that overtake together just now. But he is, oh, he's right on the bumper there. Sam Blacklock having a bit of trouble in the braking zone into Honda. And now there's a little bit of overlap. So Wayne Burke going wide, tucking back into the inside line. He's going to try and carry more mid-corner speed and come up through this complex of corners here through Hayshed. And staying right on the back, he may look to run a little wide into Lukey Heights, carry that speed, and you can see a little bit of a wider entry compared to Sam Blacklock, running it high over the top of the hill, but Sam Blacklock covers him off by staying in the middle of the road. Wayne even having to go slightly to the outside there just to avoid a little bit of contact as they came deep under brakes. So really hard racing from these guys, and you can see Wayne's car just squirming as he tries to apply that throttle and get some traction. It's really good racing here from these two.
Absolutely. If we can get an onboard J, Mr. Kennedy, director man, out of one of these corners of the inside of Wayne Burke's Synergy Sim Racing Falcon right now, he is applying, oh, sorry, Commodore, he's applying so much pressure right now. And out of the corners, he's really working this car at the moment. He is not settled. We saw at the start of the race, his car was very controlled, very smooth. But now that he's in a battle, he is really, really fighting that car. He is on the absolute maximum limit of what this car is capable of. You can see there just a little bit of a wiggle there out of Southern Loop, trying to get a run on Sam Blacklock. But now he's lost a little bit of time, and he's got to find that time back. So unfortunately for Wayne Burke, he's going to have to wait a few more laps to get back onto the back of Sam Blacklock. But it's not going to happen for now. But it was a very nice run through Honda, but with 7.5 laps still left, there is still time left for him. But is there an opportunity left? That's what we have to find out.
Yeah, well, Wayne's been looking very strong into Honda, maybe even practicing how late he can go on the brakes to make an overtake down the inside there. But his car did look really smooth, but I think, you know, the pace is good. The adrenaline's probably high, the heart's pumping, and there's only a couple of, you know, there's 7 laps left in this race now. And I think that, you know, they've lost a second to Jake over this last lap. I think they're both probably coming to terms with the fact that P1 is not for them and P2 is as high as either of them are going to go. And so they're going to fight tooth and nail for it. You can see even Wayne just trying to get a bit of a wider entry so he can get a fast exit out of the final corner. And you can see him just using that overspeed to catch up to the back, taking a nice early line into turn number 1 there, and that'll allow him to come more across the track and have a wider entry into 2. And this is where we've been seeing, if he can just not get the little wiggle on he's been getting the last couple of times. Looks fairly smooth. In fact, Blacklock gets a little bit of a wiggle, and now Wayne's going to go there. He's catching. He's probably a little bit far back, but he might... No, he's going to go down. No, he's going to pull it up. Good job. That's some good driving there. Little bit of a tap on the exit as Sam just had to check up a little bit, maybe on the throttle, and throws it down the inside. Oh, and there's contact on the corner there, and he's managed to get away with it. Oh, I don't know. Yeah, might get a replay of that one for you, because that was very late, and he may not have been checking his mirrors there on the opposite side of the car. I mean, he was going to pull it up, and he made the apex. Yeah, I mean, it was very late. And he wasn't quite there.
He's redressed the position, I should just add. So Sam Blacklock will continue now in position number 2. And I think Wayne Burke knew that as well. He knew that even though the door was slightly ajar, Sam has been taking that wider line quite a lot. So he knew that the door wasn't quite open. He knew that was probably on him. So he's gave it back. And so that battle will continue to rage on. But now the interesting thing is, Sam Blacklock probably very frustrated from that contact as Burke thinking about around the outside, not going to happen. Blacklock probably got a little bit of red mist from that contact. He's a little bit frustrated, a little bit angry after that incident. So now he's not going to be able to hit his marks quite as well. And you can see there, not the best run through turn number 2. He was a bit too wide there around the mid-corner. Fortunately for him, that Burke got a little bit of wheel spin on the exit, but we've seen him on the previous lap. He was willing to send it from this far back, and Synergy Stamp Racing are going to try and get something happening at the moment, but around the outside is not going to work. So Wayne Burke still has to wait and be patient, and we'll see if he tries anything into this corner. No, he's learned his lesson, which is good news for us, but unfortunately for Wayne Burke, that's one opportunity gone now, and with only 5 laps left, opportunities are running out.
Yeah, I think he just didn't have quite enough of a car there for that opportunity earlier, but we're just going to cut to McMullen, who just got passed actually. So it gets worse and worse for McMullen, getting passed by Cooper Webster and now looking to have a little bit of a go back. Got some good traction coming out at Siberia, and he's right on the bumper as they're coming through Hayshed now. Might try and make something work as they come up through Lukey Heights. You can see taking a very wide entry there to carry good corner speed and then hopefully a little bit more speed on the exit, but just a little bit too far back. I think Cooper Webster was really good on the brakes into Lukey Heights there and was able to carry enough speed that Mullen wasn't able to think about it. But now, now there's a little bit more of a points gap for Mullen, and he really needs to protect that position. He's got Brian Borg just behind him, and Brian was following, he got passed by Cooper Webster and was following him through. So Brian Borg now may actually be able to make a move with 4 laps to go. But yeah, some good racing by Cooper Webster there.
Yeah, absolutely. This mid-pack is very, very tense. And of course for McMullen, this is very tense times because at the moment he's only scoring 114 points. Whereas his nearest championship rival is scoring closer to 140. But he's also not out of the woods either, as Kurt Stenberg, 3rd in the championship at the moment, is starting to make some progress on the back of Thomas Hinz too. So there are battles beginning to pop up all over the track at the moment, and a lot of drivers really having to defend right now. And in fact, just ahead of Thomas Hinz and Emily Jones, ahead of Hinz and Stenberg is Emily Jones and Brett Loxton. And Loxton's had some very nice laps previously and was very, very close to Jones. A bit of a gap open now, but those two are still very close as well. And also the 2 Synergy Sim Racing cars are just in front as well, including Jordan Ross and Glenn Postlethwaite are within a second as well. But we'll have to wait and see if any of those drivers can get a bit closer and have a chance at getting one more position as we head to lap 37, 4 laps to go. Sam Blacklock pulled out a tiny little margin at the moment over Wayne Burke, which will help him ever so slightly. So that's good news for Sam Blacklock in his hunt for position number 2. Jake Burton out to a 4-second lead at the moment, so he is looking all good to take round number 7 of this championship away. So this is good news for Jake Burton as well. So a good result potentially for Trans-Tasman Racing if it doesn't fall apart like it did unfortunately for them in the Scops race on Sunday night. But so far, with a few laps to go, Stenberg has actually managed to get himself in front of Thomas Hinz, but there must have been some kind of contact because Stenberg is going to redress that position now. So we'll have a look at what happened, potentially get a replay as well as Stenberg dived to the inside at turn number 1. Oh, he hit the inside curb, which actually rebounded him off the track, and a huge moment for Thomas Hinz there as he went firing off the track, doing a lot of lawn mowing, and very rightly given back by Kurt Stenberg because they live to fight one more day. But same situation for Hinzy now as Blacklock was in. Red Mist a little bit upset over the incident, and potentially more mistakes to creep in now.
Yeah, it's always something that's easy to happen, especially you're still trying to contemplate exactly what's just happened. Now, Blacklock is losing time again to Wayne Burke, and the reason that Wayne was off the pace so much on that last lap is he got massive wheel spin coming out of Honda. He must have pulled 2 or 3 gears before he actually got some traction down, and Blacklock ran very wide coming into the final corner there, and that's not going to help his cause in keeping that second position. And Wayne, with that nice run there, is now right back up on Blacklock. But it does seem to me like Wayne and both of these guys look like they're really struggling for tyres right now. They've been going on these tyres for, what, 14 laps? They pitted about 14, 13 laps ago.
Yep.
So, yeah, these guys are definitely struggling. And I saw on the last lap as well, Wayne Burke ran wide into turn number 1 as Blacklock now defending very heavily down into Honda, doesn't want to give Wayne any opportunity to make that work. And you can see again, Wayne just trying to put the power down and just, you know, those rear tires are screaming in agony. They're just saying, can we please get off the racing track now because we're done. We've got nothing left, and Wayne just wants to use it all and more. And as you can see now, that gap has been drawn out quite dramatically compared to where they were last time. So Wayne just having to be a little bit careful with that right foot. But yeah, the understeer for them as well. I saw Wayne run wide in turn 1 and get on the grass and just managed to pull it up for turn number 2. So with now 2 laps to go as they come past the line this time by, looks like Wayne's just going to have to keep it cool, but also push on the very limit as hard as he can to make that work.
Well, Wayne Burke does do some real-world racing as well and competing in karts, and we all know that, you know, to be quick in a kart, you do have to slide it around just a little bit. Unfortunately, that racecraft does not pay off in a ton and a half of Australian V8 Supercar, but he's going to have to make something work because, like you said, 2 laps to go now, and he's going to have to basically forget about lap 39 now, forget about the lap he's currently on, and just use it to get close to Sam Blacklock. Don't make any rash moves, don't try anything. And we've got something. Emily Jones is now in a massive battle with Brett Loxton. They're going to fight 2 by 2. And Brett Loxton's going to cop a hit to the door sideways, holds onto it, but Emily Jones not done yet, trying to get to the inside. Loxton's going to light the rear tyres up. This is going to go all the way through Stoner Curve, all the way into the braking zone of Honda. This is going to be on. Loxton knows that. He keeps the inside and is going to try and hold on to this position. But we know Emily Jones loves a fight, and she's going to go into the door once again of the 14 car. Brett Loxton holds that position for now. He's in position number 8. Emily Jones demoted to position number 9, but she is not going to give up without a fight.
No, Emily really pushing there. She, yeah, tried to go down the, oh, actually, yeah, she got past from the inside through turn 1, and there was a little bit of contact there, and she just gave a little bit back to Brett Loxton as they came through turn 2 and said, well, you can do it to me, I can do it to you. And a little bit more as they came through Honda there, and she's right on the back of Loxton. She doesn't want to give up that position, and she's going to try and work hard, but is a bit of a gap out now. It looks like she's maybe struggling on tyres a little bit, as Loxton's been doing a really good race, a really good job this whole race to keep up a good pace and make a couple of overtakes throughout it as well.
Yeah, absolutely, but we are now working the final lap, lap number 40, and that is all it's going to be, but it's going to be a fight between Sam Blacklock and Wayne Burke. They're both going to be on the podium at this rate as long as nothing happens and they don't get the gloves off too much, but you can see Sam Blacklock covering the inside there into the Honda corner, and he's going to have to because Wayne Burke is going to unsettle him. He's going to get his nose into the back bumper of the 17 car. Now he's going to go very slow on the entries, Wayne Burke, and potentially get a crossover, but Sam Blacklock, wise that, tries to cover the inside, but he's not done it quite enough. They're going to go side by side, and who's got the biggest cojones to go side by side through the hay shed? Blacklock just about made contact. Wayne Burke takes to the grass, and he's going to be demoted to position number 3. Sam Blacklock looks to hold on to position number 2 as they slide into the hairpin once again. But we do have to turn our attention to our race winner, who is going to walk away with a brilliant final 2 days. He came 3rd in V8 Scops on Sunday, and on Monday he's going to take position number 1. It is redemption for Jake Burton. He weaves across the finish line to take position number 1. Sam Blacklock looks to take position number 2 as long as nothing dramatic happens on field, but it's going to be P2 and a 1-2 for Trans-Tasman Racing with Synergy Sim Racing joining them on the podium.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're just watching that battle now. Brett Loxton and Emily Jones as they come over the line. Emily just doesn't quite have enough in it to get past Brett Loxton. So good job there from both those drivers for P8 and 9. Thomas Hinz comes across 10th. And finally, and we're just going to look at Michael Taliancic now. He's just managed to get past
Yeah,
Hinton.
Hinton's out of fuel.
He's out of fuel. So I don't think there's been a single race this year where someone hasn't run out of fuel as they've come across the line. As we're just getting the final cars rounding the last few corners. I think the last car on track is going to be Darren Lord, who's just coming through Lukey Heights now. But yeah, wow, that was a pretty fantastic race, especially considering the length of that race. A lot of different strategies. Big winners from that were Brenton Hobson, who made his way up through the field fairly substantially. But everyone else within the top 10 kind of started there. So yeah, not many people started in the top 10 that moved outside of it. I think Brian Borg was really the only one there.
Yep, so we'll grab your results up on screen now. And after an hour, 1 minute, 29 seconds of racing, 40 laps of Phillip Island, Jake Burton will be your race victor. He wins in a 1-2 finish for Trans-Tasman Racing with Sam Blacklock coming home in P2 only just ahead of Wayne Burke, who gave it his all. Brady Myers continues a very nice run of form in position number 4 with Brenton Hobson, who's now getting pushed by, I think that's Brian Borg, around the final lap as he's run out of fuel. Jordan Ross comes home P number 6, Glenn Postlethwaite, Brett Loxton, Emily Jones, and Thomas Hinz round out your top 10.
Kurt Stenberg came home in 11th position ahead of Cooper Webster. Webster pulling a late move on Marlon McMullen, who ended up 13th, if you can believe that. If you've been following us for this iRacing V8 Supercars series, that's probably the lowest finish we've seen from him this season for sure. Brian Berg came home in 14th position with Guy Leach having a good race in 15th. Michael Taliancic, after running his tank long, ended up in 16th position with Christian Hinton in 17th. McMillan not doing as well as he would have hoped, sitting down there in P number 18 with Craig Jones in 19. Steve Jansen takes the final top 20 position with Bruce Keeley, David Kinmond, Marie Hrushka, Darren Lord, Troy Maguire, Abarafti Putra, and Todd Parks rounding out the field. But TTR doing a very good job there with the 1-2. They had fantastic pace in qualifying, and it was pretty evident, especially seeing Jake just run away with that second half of the race there, that they had good race pace in that car as well.
Yeah, absolutely. They were a bit admitting that in Scops on the weekend, they did miss the strategy of the setup just a little bit, but it looks like these conditions really favored them here tonight. A lot cooler track conditions, and Jake Burton and Sam Blacklock really made the most of it to take full points for Trans-Tasman Racing away from this round. So a fantastic job for those guys. But from us here at V8 Online, we're going to be seeing you with a little bit of a break next time on Sunday night for what is going to be the International Majors Series, round number 5. And it comes from a circuit like no other, weighing in at 28 kilometers, 173 corners. It is going to be a massive challenge for the drivers. It's a 2.4 hours of the Nürburgring Nordschleife. What do you think that race is going to be like, Zach?
Crazy. Nothing but absolute crazy.
Just about sums it up. And if that wasn't crazy enough, the next day on Monday night for the next round of the iRacing official V8 Supercar series, we're going to be heading to Zolder. There's high curbs, there's overtaking opportunities into turn number 1 in the final corner, and a few other places if you're feeling brave. It should be a fantastic night of racing. And from us here at V8 Online, thank you so much for watching. Well done, Baku, and thanks for watching.